All right, folks, welcome back to Find Your Perfect Basketball Camps. Today, Module 3, Step 2, Think. Put your thinking cap on. Go ahead, go to that coat closet, bust out that dusty thinking cap, pat it off because we're about to use it. But before we get into that, quickly, a last module recap. We covered learning about basketball camps. We talked about basketball camp types like overnight, elite, national, showcase, and satellite camps. Common basketball camp terms like camper to coach ratio, stations, and camp swag. Also, a camp schedule to help you plan and think about when you want to attend summer camps or camps year round. Today's game plan for Think. Step 2 of our step-by-step guide, that thinking part. And don't worry, this is not a brain teaser. We're not contemplating life here. Just going over a few of the same questions I've asked to help hundreds of parents find camps. I've done a couple dozen paid searches. I've done help parents out through email, social media, and these are similar questions I use to pick their brain, figure out what they need, what they're interested in, really narrow down that search. And this is an important module. Don't skip over it because, like I said earlier, it's going to save you time. When you know what you're looking for, it's a lot easier to find out there, I promise. Today's rookie mistake, thinking in black and white. So what does this mean? It means that the questions I'll be posing aren't either or questions for the most part. It's not either you have to do this or you have to do that. Maybe you can do both. And an example here is fun camps versus advanced camps. And this question is going to get up when we talk about your son or daughter's skill level. They don't have to, if they're beginner or intermediate, they don't have to go to either fun camps or either advanced camps. They can go to a fun camp like an NBA camp and then also an advanced camp, elite camp, maybe a specialized camp if they want to get better at shooting or ball handling. You can really mix it up, and it's not either or. It's more for choosing that specific camp and what you want for them. It all depends on what they want to do as well. Cheat sheet alert here. We got a great cheat sheet for you. It's the same. You can see it's on here on the right. It's the same questions that I asked the parents, and then there's lines underneath so you can fill them out and also take notes as well if there's any things that I say that you may be interested in, because I'm going to give you a few tips as we go along as well. The first question here, very simple, very basic. What's the camper's age? This is going to really narrow down right away what your camper can't, what camp your camper, what camp your camper, say that 5 times fast, where they can go and where they can't go. And you're going to see the camps broken down by age, like 8 to 10, 11 to 13, 14 to 17, some variation of that. Another question you might want to ask yourself, are they old enough for an overnight camp? Is that something they're interested in? I've seen overnight camps for kids as young as 8. Usually, though, it's going to be 5th grade, 6th grade, and up for overnight camps. They're going to be 12, 13. Age level pro tip right here. Here's one of the tips I was talking about. If your son or daughter has advanced skills for their age, consider bumping them up an age group. If they're 13 and usually one of the best 13-year-olds right now in their area, consider moving them up to the 14 to 17-year-old age group. And my dad did this sometimes back in the day. He actually fibbed on some of the applications. I don't 100% recommend that. If you're comfortable with it, you can do it. Usually, though, camps will move up advanced players to their competition level. It may be a good idea to mention to the camp director that you're interested in moving them up to the competition if the competition at their current age group isn't there. Only do this, though, if they are ready. You don't want your young baller to have a poor basketball camp experience, too challenged, not fun, go home feeling defeated. That's never a good thing to do. At the same time, though, you don't want to waste your money on a camp where they aren't challenged. So it's really a balancing act, and it's going to be up to you to determine if they're ready for that on their age, at their skill level, the type of camp they're going to. Things like that to consider. Number 2, what's the camper's skill level? Helps determine what kind of camp to look for. Beginner camps, remember, beginner camps are going to be more fun-based, so the camper has a good experience and enjoys basketball. Elite, advanced skill level camps will be more skill-based, more leadership-based, challenging for the camper, increasing that IQ. Remember the rookie mistake that if you do have a beginner camper looking for a beginner skill level, the basic fundamentals, excuse me, they don't have to only go, well, if you have an advanced camper, they don't have to go to only advanced camps. They can do the fun local ones with their friends. They can go to a celebrity camp and then also mix in some of the advanced camps as well. It's not just either or. You can mix up that search a little bit. Question 3, two-parter because they're connected. Where do you live and how far can you travel? Where you live will depend on how many camps are in your area. For example, New York City will be jam-packed with camps, and a small town in Texas may require some traveling to find an overnight camp or the camp that you're looking for. A tip here, if you're having a hard time finding camps in your area, think about what's the closest city that you're willing to travel to, or the biggest college that may have camps. That will help you narrow down your search a little bit. And we'll get into those Google searches too when you can't find camps in your area. If you can't find camps, or there are camps but it's not what you're looking for, the other question pops up: how far can you travel? Here's some traveling pro tips to think about. Consider carpooling with another camper's parent. If it's an hour away, it's going to take a long time to drive, 4 or 5 days in a row. Maybe you can trade off. Or maybe you know another parent who is going, the camp is on their way to work, and maybe they'll take your son or daughter every day for you. This helps with the networking part and knowing other dedicated warrior basketball camp parents. If the camp is farther than the driving distance, is there an aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, cousin, good friend your kid could stay with while going to the camp? That way you could drop them off on one weekend, go to work, and then next weekend go and pick them up if it's a couple, 2, 3, maybe 4 hours away. Another popular option I see with parents, and this is a great idea, especially if you're traveling pretty far, going to another state, instead fit the basketball camp into family vacation. Instead of sending your son or daughter to a hotel room that they aren't that excited about family vacation, they're just trying to play video games on the iPad in the hotel room, send them to a camp instead in that area. And you can fit that right into family vacation. In fact, you may like it if they're going to an overnight camp for 5 nights. You get a little alone time to yourself or with your spouse. Number 4, what dates? Question number 4, what dates are you available? Your son or daughter may have the whole summer, winter, spring break with nothing to do, but what's your schedule look like? Think about the vacations you may be taking, work obligations, other siblings, sports, leagues, events. What do you need to know to work around? Remember, the summer camp schedule usually runs early June through mid-August. Think about what things you may have during that time. Number 5, how much moolah, money, do you want to spend on summer camps? I recommend sending a spending limit, a budget, and then work within it so you can get creative with what kind of camps you want to go to. Send that spending limit over the summer, over the year, your decision. Here's a good guide to camp costs. $100 or less, you're looking at a clinic. Around $250 a day camp, over $500 plus an overnight camp. And I want you to remember that the more specialized, advanced the camps are, they're going to be more expensive than that. That's a pretty good starting point with how much they're going to cost. An example here, $1,000 yearly camp budget could get you a couple clinics during the winter and spring, plus an overnight camp and a day camp during the summer, which would be a solid camp schedule for the year. I think that a lot of great training could go on with the right camps. in that kind of a schedule for $1,000. That being said, there's also elite camps with traveling costs that may be over $1,000. So that's, you may be there right now looking at those camps, doing maybe even a couple of those camps, or keep that in mind that some of the elite advanced camps are going to cost that, or maybe even some more. Overwhelmed with info. If you are, don't worry about it. We are covering a lot. You can always go back and rewatch the modules if you want. Print out those cheat sheets, like I've said, to take notes and review the material so that you can also have them as we go through the next steps. Keep calm and let's keep learning on. Only a few more questions to spark some thought. These aren't questions I usually ask parents, but they are things to think about as a parent that will help you narrow down your search and find those basketball camps. Day or overnight camp? Big question here. Overnight camp can be a big step for a kid. A question you want to ask yourself is, are they ready for it? Would this be their first week away from home? If it is, and if it's something you're worried about, consider bringing a friend or more friends to the overnight camp. Your young player can room with their friend. They can eat with them during lunch, and they can also hang out during the downtime. Usually at camp, if they don't bring a friend, don't be that worried because kids make friends pretty easily on teams. They also hang out with their station group as well. So they do make friends. And they also, if they have a random roommate, they can make those, hang out with that person as well. But bringing a friend or several friends definitely makes the camp a little bit easier to get through. But bringing friends also doesn't force them to make new friends. So that's something to think about as well. FYI here, playing on the same team is usually not allowed to avoid stacking talent. So if you do bring a friend, won't be able to play on the same team. And a pro tip, bringing a friend to camp can also result in a camp discount, which everyone loves. So not going to complain about that. So if you are the planner type and the planner parent, consider bringing several or recommending several campers to the camp. Set up that whole thing. So I've seen camp discounts up to $80 or $100 for bringing 4 or 5 kids to a camp or recommending those kids. We'll get into this camp discounts later in the module too. We'll show you some examples and get into that discount and some others. Girls camp only for the parents who have daughters out there. At a younger age, this isn't that big of a deal, but once middle school, high school, definitely high school comes around, many women's college basketball teams will have camps only for girls. Is this something your daughter is interested in? Do they only want to play against girls, or are they interested in playing against boys? And if they are, could be definitely good for their skill development if they're playing against older, taller, faster competition. And I recommend this for not just girls, obviously, but one of the best ways to get better at a sport or anything is to play against and be around people who are better than you. So it'll raise your game up. And then when you go back to playing against your competition that you're used to for your age, you're going to be that much better and that much more prepared to handle it and do well. For this, though, and with anything you're deciding for your kid, talk with them and see what they think about it. And next step, educational value of the camp. This is very important. The last question here. The best camps will have a lasting value long after they're over. Some camps pride themselves in what they teach campers. The camps will place an emphasis on the intangibles like teamwork, sportsmanship, hard work. The more advanced camps will also discuss leadership, very important. Lectures are the most popular way to create an educational value at camp. Red flag, another red flag here, if the camp doesn't list any of these non-tangibles on their website, a red flag because you want those lectures, you want those intangibles, what people will think about passing down to your son or daughter, you want them out there. A couple examples of lectures that I still remember to this day. One of my most memorable lectures was by a Harlem Globetrotter. He went out, he did a bunch of tricks, really grabbed the attention of the audience and the campers. Afterward, he went on to give a serious talk about the dangers of drugs, and he talked about how his hometown buddy got into drugs at an early age and ended up overdosing and passing away. He was a great basketball player. I still remember the story. It was 15 some odd years ago, almost 20 years ago, and still remember it, still in my head. That's the kind of the educational value that you can get at camp, especially through the lectures. Other things I remember, a little bit more fun. I remember meeting my first pro, Sam Cassell, at the Florida State University camp, and pro quarterback Brad Johnson. Both of them came. They're both FSU alumni, and they came to camp to give discussions. Not sure what they said, but I remember that it was the first pros I ever met, and I still remember that to this day. That'll wrap up this thinking module, this step 2. Hopefully all this thinking we've done gives you a better idea of what kind of camp you'll be looking for in the next handful of modules as we do the gather step and the collecting of the camps. We went over the same questions that I asked parents to find camps. So these questions are things you're going to find as you do your search for basketball camps. Also threw in some tips there for you to think about. Ask questions on the camper's age, skill level, your traveling, your dates, and what camp costs. Also discuss the overnight camps, the girls-only camps, and the educational value of camp. Big thing right there. Up next, step 3 of our 4-step guide. We're going to do a gather overview. It's the meat and potatoes of this guide. We're just going to do a little bit more learning about the websites we're going to go over and look through. There's a lot of info, so I want to quickly go over it, short module. Also go over a special tool I created to help you stay organized during your search. Want to record any camp that you're interested in. We'll go over that tool. I'll give it to you. And really excited for that module too. I will see you in that module.